here we are, guys, on Daybreak, our first map in this best of 9 between our two teams here in Team Arena Challenge 3 today. We have our green Terran in the bottom left part of the map from the team Empire. It is Beastyqt. And in the upper right part of the map in the red from the team Karont3 Esports Club, it is Mikhail.
L versus Beastyqt to start things off. TVT, as we stated before, and Daybreak. I've got to admit, Daybreak I love. I think it's an incredible map. I love it in so many matchups. I do not like it in TVT, I have to say.
Why is that?
Because it's a two-player map.
Explain yourself.
So we either have really, really cheesy openings, proxy marauder sort of thing, or it devolves, because of the relatively narrow walk lanes that can be so easily watched by tanks, into a really static positional marine tank kind of drag-out match. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you raise a couple of good points. It is a map where players are tempted to kind of cheese a little bit more on. I saw a lot of games recently where we had players proxying like everything outside of their opponent's base. And for instance, in where we're looking at right now, or where we were looking at a moment ago, at Mikhail's base, if you go just left of there, left, straight left, right there, it seems like players are wanting to kind of proxy all their buildings right there in the area. Marine King's done it. Clyde has done it recently as well in tournament matches too. So yeah, this can be a very cheesy map. Doesn't look like it will be this time around, as we have both players building their buildings inside their bases. Yeah,
Beastyqt now going to get a pretty good read on his opponent. Barracks being constructed up at the front, and he is bypassing gas for now. So unless he's going for that Braddock-style gas bypass, or gas at 15, it looks like he's going to opt for a 1-Rax gasless fast expand. Mikoel, on the other hand, is putting up his gas. And we'll see what sort of opening he goes with. It's going to be a real tell if he puts up his second gas or now while his factory is being constructed.
Yeah, usually if you do see that second gas, it's a pretty good indication of Cloak Banshees in the future here. But there's a lot you can do off of one gas as well. I mean, you can go for the Marine Hellion Medevac, elevator trick that a lot of people like to do on in this matchup right now. It certainly can be good on Daybreak. We see Beastyqt there checking for some proxies. Doesn't see any. He will see the SCV coming in, though, to do some scouting. Oh, and no Marine Micro, so it will get all the way in the base.
Yeah.
But Mikhail has a lot of options from what he is doing as well. I mean, that 1-Rax expand, he can just add on a lot of barracks, go for some really heavy early Marine pressure as well. And look at this, a Tech Lab on the barracks. So it looks like it's going to be a Reaper expand from our Karont3 Terran player.
That's right. So Mikoel going to opt for that. Beastyqt with an SCV buried inside of his opponent's base. Now, likely it's just going to be a delayed scout here in just a bit, but it could be an important read on what his opponent is doing very, very soon.
Yeah, I mean, even if you see a Reaper expand, it doesn't necessarily give you a lot of information about what their mid-game tech is going to be. A lot of players will follow it up with Banshees just because you've already got the Tech Lab, but you can just as easily throw down a few more barracks and then go for like a combat shields or a stim timing. And we do have a couple more barracks going down for Beastyqt, so definitely wanting to get that early Marine count up there. You always want to make sure you're safe against things like Cloak Banshees and all of that. And Beastyqt still continuing to kind of wait until his time to scout comes.
And Mikoel, just a pretty normal Reaper expand, putting down a factory on this Tech Lab already. Now, the question is, you mentioned already a potential of some Banshees to follow this up. Mikoel could be opting for mech eventually here soon, too, with the multiple gas, with the factories being started so early. The Reaper is going to get a pretty good look at what Beastyqt is doing, and Beastyqt just opening for pretty normal bio.
Yep, that's right. Just kind of staying safe. And that's really, I mean, when you go for that one, oops, goodbye, Marine. When you go for that 1-Rax expand, you can try to tech out of it, but it does leave you a little bit vulnerable to those very early pushes. So most Terran players do decide to go for a more bio-oriented opening after going for that 1-Rax gasless expand. I'm really curious to see what Mikhail is going to do here. He's actually getting another barracks. Interesting. So we may just see some tanks right away. Yeah, there it is. The tank started for Mikoel, so go ahead. He's going ahead and going into a very standard Marine tank composition here.
And what a scout from Beastyqt as well. I mean,
did he
have that delayed scout? Oh yeah, he saw everything. He actually bounced in there at exactly the time. He saw the factory with everything producing. He saw the 2 barracks being constructed, so he knows exactly what his opponent is up to. And a starport already beginning for Mikoel. Looks like we did have a Reaper killed in the middle of the map. This Marine has actually snuck both the SCV and the Marine kill, so I don't know how he managed to get them both himself, but he is the hero of the day.
Not bad. Well, you know, despite all the fancy openings you see in Terran versus Terran, it's still, you know, when you come down to it, Marines, tanks, and medevacs are such a solid unit composition that you can really just play them all game long. And with Mikael going for that relatively quickly, he's going to have, a strong timing push if he does decide to do that. He's going to have medevacs started very, very soon here. And, at the very least, even if he doesn't decide to push, he can put down a third command center. He can go ahead and go for a quick third base like Beastyqt is doing. But either way, I think we're going to see a pretty macro-oriented game from at least one of our Terran players. Beastyqt certainly. Mikael may be going for something a little bit more aggressive. We'll have to see.
No upgrades for Mikael quite yet, though.
Yeah,
he's really concentrated on his tank production. So yeah, I mean, no stim. Okay, he is selecting them now, so we'll see if he decides to get something up. Almost has 100 gas. You can see this is his active selection.
Combat
There's
shields.
combat shield.
Okay. Huh, did he get siege mode yet for his siege tanks? He did not. Okay. Yeah, usually it's a little bit early for something like that, but if a player is going for a very, very early push with Marine Tank, then they will get siege mode. He made a starport, but I don't know if he's actually made anything out of it quite yet. Did he made a medevac? Okay, one medevac, yeah.
Yeah, just one medevac for now, but as we can see, Beastyqt is going for, this is a lot less tech-intensive build, so less resources poured into keeping his supply at or ahead of his opponents, because it's just Marines for now, and upgrades are starting to finish up. But he did invest in a third base to go along with this. He's going to be a lot later to tech, a lot later to strong units, which is going to give Mikael an opening. But if Mikael doesn't get any damage done, then the economy for Beastyqt is going to be so good.
Yeah, now Beastyqt did see that army coming across the map because of his scout at the Xel'Nagitar, so he will be able to put a nice concave there and maybe get in position fairly well. And that scan showing him again where the army is, just to kind of double check here. So Mikael has a choice right now. Does he want to try to push and risk losing some tanks very early? Looks like he does. He could just as easily go home, too, but he knows with his third base a little bit delayed here, he should probably try to do some damage.
Beastyqt didn't know that siege mode wasn't finished, but now it is, so Mikael can siege up.
Here we go.
Beastyqt going to duck in, and he is able to pick off one tank, but the siege tank's really starting to enact their damage there. Second tank does go down. The Marine count getting very, very low for Beastyqt, and he does have to pull out of there.
Yeah, I feel like if he would have maybe focused on the tanks, he may have been able to get a little bit better of a result in that engagement, but as it was, I mean, he did kill two of them. It should be enough to push Mikael back to his base and make him maybe try to wait and take a third instead of continuing to push. But no, he wants to keep staying aggressive. This is a bold move by Mikael.
And to think if Beastyqt had attacked 10 seconds before his initial attack, as one medevac does go down, he actually would have obliterated his opponent's army and basically outright won the game with the economic advantage that he had. So.
Certainly would have helped a whole lot. Beastyqt is also lacking combat shields until right about now, too, so his Marines were a little bit weaker, even though they did have stim. But here we go, pulling some SCVs out. There are two siege tanks. He's going to lose a lot of workers in this attack.
Yeah, no kidding. And he does pick off one of the tanks, but that's it.
Man.
That's all that happened. So 14 workers have been killed so far. He is now at a little bit less workers on his opponent, but of course he's triple producing them for now.
Yeah, it does even things up. That third command center is helping quite a bit, and he does have mules to give him that little extra economic push above his opponent. Getting siege mode right now, so soon he'll be able to go ahead and try to do this. I don't like this decision, though. Attacking into this, he knows there are siege tanks there, so it's a little bit, I don't know, man. I feel like he's not trading efficiently enough for this to work, really.
Beastyqt is just really, really aggressive. But, as we can see, he does have that base advantage over his opponent, so his supply is still even, if a little bit ahead. Looks like Mikael may be thinking about a third base now. Yeah, it is queued up. So, Beastyqt has a little bit of time to continue with an advantage, but as Mikael continues to creep forward, things are looking pretty bad for him. But Beastyqt is now on 1-1, investing in those double engineering bays.
1-1, and he has 6 medevacs as opposed to his opponents. I believe it's like 2 or 4 right now, so he definitely does have the advantage there. His Marines are going to be able to survive another hit or two, and it looks like Mikael, with his third base going up now, wants to pull back and play a little bit more defensively. Beastyqt has a great opportunity now to load up some Marines in some medevacs and do some potential drop play. We'll have to see what he chooses here. Looks like he's just moving out for now, chasing his opponent a little bit across the map now that he's got his third base fairly well secured. But yeah, I think we could see some drop play in our future here.
Ooh, not a great rally there, and unfortunately, Mikael's lost 3 Marines, trying to get those others away up at the front, too. Not a huge difference, but certainly something that's a little bit annoying.
When I said drop play, I wasn't expecting it to go this far. He's mass dropping in there. Oh, and that line of buildings is actually going to be pretty helpful, but it looks like he decides to turn around.
Yeah, forces a big stim out of Mikoel's units.
Yep.
There were only 2 medevacs. Yeah, still only 2 medevacs out on the field for Mikoel, so that's going to be a lot of the energy gone on them, unfortunately. Back on Beastyqt's side of things, though, his third base is now completely saturated. He can start looking at a fourth, maybe in the middle with a planetary or something along those lines. Mikoel did just finish up his third, but of course is still pretty far behind economically. Beastyqt, though, on the other hand, 2 more factories, 3 more barracks coming up, so really investing in infrastructure.
Yeah, it just seems like largely right now TVT has gone back to being Marine Tank medevac. I talked a little bit about this when I was looking at Tage's game versus Maru the other day on Build Order Breakdown, where basically Terran players have completely cut out Vikings for the most part. They're realizing now that the air advantage that they want really is easier gained with medevacs and scans than it was with Vikings, just because it keeps your Marines alive that much better, obviously, to be able to afford a lot more medevacs. So Beastyqt moving into this third base. Does he have enough?
Oh, wow. He draws a lot of those units back into the tank line. Only one of the tanks have fallen. A second one does go down, but Beastyqt has a lot of Marines left over, pulling back behind the tanks, as a matter of fact, and he does pretty efficiently deal with those. He lost some tanks. His opponent didn't really lose any, but the Marine count was devastated for Mikoel.
Yeah, and you do need to have a good balance between Marines and tanks if you want to have a successful push. Oh, Beastyqt leaving a tank behind. It was a weak one.
Yeah.
It deserved it. That's survival of the fittest for you there. But, yeah, if you have too few Marines, then their Marines can run up on your tanks and kill them before they can really do a lot of damage. And if you have too few tanks, then your Marines are just going to get slaughtered in a straight-up fight. So you really do need to have that healthy balance. And Beastyqt is doing a pretty good job of it right now. And Mikoel really needs to work on replenishing his Marine count. He's doing that. He's got 9 on the way. He's got his upgrades going too. So both of these players still in a pretty good position in this game.
Beastyqt doing a really nice job of investing into his upgrades, though. I mean, he is already going to 3-3 at the moment, but he doesn't have any mech upgrades. And, Mikoel wants to push forward here. There are quite a few units out for Beastyqt, but it looks like he's going to lose both of his tanks. Mikoel with a great engagement there. Really well done.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to barely just kind of get an edge on Beastyqt's positioning there, make it so that he couldn't really push up with his Marines. Beastyqt realized there were that many tanks there, and Mikoel coming from both sides here now.
Yeah, Beastyqt has to move back, and with another stim, a lot of medevacs could go down. One has already fallen. Looks like Beastyqt going to turn on his opponent here. There is just one tank up here, but Beastyqt is just out of range. Now pulls them within range, and Mikoel's going to a little bit overcommit and lose some of his units.
Yeah, lost a lot of Marines there, actually. A pretty big overcommitment for only getting to kill 1 medevac. His tank count is really, really high, though, so he could try to take this 4th base and feel pretty comfortable about it. Beastyqt trying to take his as well, but, you know, Mikoel, when it comes to defenses, kind of has the advantage at this point. I also got to say, I really love the sensor tower on the main. Beastyqt has his up now as well, but on a map like Daybreak, you really want to be able to see those drops coming too.
And as we see, though, Beastyqt, he's not making 2 or 3 tanks at a time right now, but he does have 3 factories that we're producing. There we go. So 3 tanks at a time. So he will be able to slowly catch up in the overall tank count. As we can see, it's 11-7 now, and he gets a significant Marine advantage. That being said, what's the economy at? 69 workers to 72. Both players pretty even. Mikoel could land this command center, turn it into a planetary here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very typical TVT right now. It's coming down a lot to upgrades and army positioning. Upgrades, of course, make a big difference in straight-up fights, but army positionings can really, really change the overall result. And here we go, Beastyqt. Oh, man, Mikoel running right into those siege tanks. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about here. I mean, you can have players with even upgrades, but a move like that is really going to swing the advantage to one side.
Oh, wow, 1 tank goes down, too, and it looks like a second may fall here in a second. No, finally, Mikoel pulling the rest of his forces away so we can deal with this. And Beastyqt moves him right back into the siege tank line again. So Beastyqt kind of had weird, I don't know, he really wanted to get these Marines up through here, through the tank firing range, and lost a few Marines to do so, but afterwards, Mikoel kind of threw a bunch of units away himself.
Oh, Beastyqt is going to drop on these tanks. He's going to try to take advantage of them being all grouped up, and Mikoel's out of position. Oh, nice on siege. He's still going to lose a tank maybe, but could have been a lot worse. Beastyqt losing all those Marines and medevacs, but look at this, using the opportunity to move in when the tanks are unsieged.
Yeah, kills 2 of them right away. A third, 4th go down, actually. So now I think he has a definitive lead in tanks. Yeah, 11-4, 11-3, and can start sieging up the 4th. Well done, Beastyqt.
That was a huge move, yeah, causing the unsiege with the drop and then using that unsiege to get his units in position to take out Mikoel's tank count. That was a bold move by Beastyqt, but man, it paid off big time.
Let's see here now. Mikael, what can he do from this point? Looks like he's trying to flank around the sides, and he is actually going to be able to get one, then two tanks. No! Oh, okay, there we go. Finally, it does go down. That's actually pretty good for him because now he's in a position on the Zelnaga Tower. He can start to push these back slowly while he repairs up the planetary fortress, but he's still down by 30 supply and a huge amount of upgrades.
Yep. That's right. Now, Beastyqt still sieging up that planetary fortress. Mikael needs to use that fortress to mine from right now. He can't spend all his time repairing, but unfortunately the result is that it just dies, so he loses his base anyway.
And that is devastating because Mikael had a pretty good position there and could have found a space to have at least a little bit of success, but now Beastyqt has kind of flipped that on its head, and he can maneuver around down towards the right.
Yeah, he is, and he might just be trying to catch Mikael's army in a pincer maneuver, and it looks like it is working. Pulling it out of position yet again. Brilliant positioning moves from Beastyqt. Man, he is playing so smart this game. That was a feint actually towards the third base. GG, well played indeed, and Beastyqt takes game one for Team Empire. That was just a beautiful move, man. He made that feint